Hello and welcome to Skill Set 2. Skill Set 2 is about creating a barrier between the workplace and the place where the tenants are at. You're going to need a couple of things to do this. You'll need warning signs, heavy plastic, a cutting tool, tape, wood stock, barriers, and measuring tape. So the idea is to post up barriers, signs, and something called flat entry to prevent the dust from actually coming out of the contaminated area. So the first thing I want to do is set up these barriers, physical barriers. The idea is that you don't want the tenants wandering into a place that might be hazardous. So in this case, it is hazardous. You want to be sure that you block them, and you want to be sure that the signs are very, very visible. So I'm taking these, I'm placing them around the work area. So this way, separation between everybody else and me doing the actual work inside. The next thing is signs. I want to post signs that are very easy to read, very big, and place them where people can actually see them and read them. Now remember, when you post these signs up, you have to keep in mind what language is the building's talking in, the tenants I mean. So for instance, if the building is a Spanish building, then you probably will not put up English signs. Same thing goes if it's a Chinese building in another language. So I'm going to put these signs all around. Now remember, in the actual field, you want to use standard OSHA colors for hazardous materials. So far I got my barrier set up, I got my signs posted. Now comes the actual flat entry. The first thing I want to do is that I want to measure the door. I want to see how much plastic I'll need to cover the doorway. So I'll use my measuring tape, and I'll start from the top, and I'll work my way down to see how tall the frame is. And it looks like it's about 7 feet. So when I put my plastic, I'm going to add about 3 to 5 inches extra. Plastic, I'm going to use my cutting tool, in this case which is a utility knife. The plastic that I'll be using is heavy duty plastic. This is about 3 or 4 mil. So the idea is to have 2 layers, one overlapping the other, and I'm going to cut a split down the middle and show you exactly how to do that. So first off, I have my measurement. They said 7 feet. So I'm going to cut 7 feet and 3 inches of length for the plastic. So once again, I'm going to get my measuring tape. I'm going to measure out 7 feet plus 3 inches. So it looks like 7 feet is right around here. I'm going to cut about 7 feet and about 3 inches. Now sometimes what makes this a little easier is you have a heavy wood material to cut against. This way you're sure that your cut is pretty much straight. In this case I'm going to use a 2x4. Now depending on where you are, it might be easier to use a pair of scissors. For instance, if you're on carpet, you don't want to cut into the substrate of the wood, of the floor rather. So, here's my plastic, about 7 feet, 3 inches tall. I'm going to put this over the doorway. So after I've measured and cut my heavy plastic, I'm going to tape this up to the actual doorway. We'll start off with the header, the frame. And before I start actually taping it, I'm going to take the center of the plastic. I'm going to make a little S symbol. Just like that. So what that does is that when I start cutting into this plastic and start walking through it, I will drag the entire thing with me, so I have some slack due to that S. So the trick is to make sure you get both sides proper, right? Try to center as much as possible, and then from here, try to fold that little S shape. Don't need a lot, just need a little bit, just so that it won't tear. So after you get a little S shape, you're going to take your tape, and you're going to start actually sealing off the doorway. I'll leave enough slack in the center to get that fold, and then you tape. So as I get toward the bottom, if you notice that I did the same thing I did at the top, as far as making a little S. And so what this does, that creates slack. So that when I cut through the center, once again, I will not tear it once I go through. So I'll make sure it's plenty of slack. I point this little S thing here, like this. And then I'll start taping the bottom on. So there you have it. This is the first part of setting up the flap entryway. The first layer of plastic, secured perimeter tightly on all sides, with the yes at the top and yes at the bottom. So the next step now is to create an actual entryway in the center of the plastic. But before you do that, so that you don't tear open into the plastic, you want to use tape first. And I'll show you how that works. It's like a large piece of tape. I'm going to run this down the very center. This is going to be the opening, or the size of the opening when I cut into the plastic. So then with this tape, I want to secure it at the top and at the bottom by putting tape horizontally. So once I have the middle tape secured, now I can begin cutting into the plastic. So once again, I'll try to be as center as possible with my cutting tool. In this case, my utility knife. I want to cut into the tape. Now I'm going to cut until I see the inside, all the way down. And remember, when you're cutting this, you want to be as close to the center as possible without going off to the left or to the right. So this tape serves as protection so I don't open the plastic as I'm cutting it through. Not only that, it serves as protection so when I go through it, I don't tear the plastic myself just by popping through the barrier. Okay, so now we have an opening that has tape here and here. And I should be able to step through this without causing too much damage to the actual flap entryway. Now keep in mind, this is just the first part. There's no part that goes on top of this. But first things first, let's check out the doorway and see if it works. So far so good, no tears. The door doesn't get held. Let's get there. So I'm trying to step back out. Looks good, no tears. Okay, that's not too bad. So now we're going to put the second entry. So the first thing I want to do is I want to cut another piece of plastic, right, using my roll. I'm going to cut another piece of plastic, the same size as this one, so I'm going to go over it. So one of the things that's recommended the most is that when you put in the second piece of plastic on, you want to be able to weigh it down. So that when I open this and I close it, as soon as I enter through the second flapway, the first plastic's already been closed and secured. We're going to use this and I'll show you how that works. Remember those 3 inches that we left off on each side? With those 3 inches, for this case, I'm going to use to wrap around, in this case, my broomstick. So now it's like an added weight to the door. After I roll this onto it like so, I'll use my tape and just tape it together. So you want just enough tape so this thing doesn't unravel as you're going through it. Once you have the piece of wood, whatever you're using, secured to the bottom, now I can start taping this toward the top. So this is going to be the bottom on the outside. It's going to look like this. And I'm going to tape take this, the same way I did up here, I'm going to take this to the very top. So once you secure the top,
Is it on?
yeah. So once you secure the top, you have completed your double flap entry. So you see how the boom stick from the bottom now weighs down the plastic. So the idea is that when you go through this, by the time you get into that second plastic, to the second barrier, this already have fallen and kind of creates almost like an air barrier to prevent dust from coming outside the contamination area. And that is your double flap entry.